Okay, so this has been drying overnight, and really it's given it a chance to catch up with itself. As I say, we've done a lot of work on this in a very short time, basically 2 days. The trouble with when you're working that quick is trying to sand things when you've used weld glues especially. They're not quite dry and you can end up making more damage than actually sort of gluing together, i.e. when you're sanding it, it just sort of rolls and it's not particularly nice. So if we have a look around and see what we've got at the moment. So we've got the basic shakedown, a couple of areas we need to take care of, we need to sand and sort in. One is these, obviously the ones around the intakes. It's not bad at all, to be honest, and as you can see it's a cracking fit. We've got no gaps whatsoever. Little areas I really am impressed with, we spoke about it before but I'll cover it again because it's good, is this joint down the bottom. Notoriously, I can't think of another model kit I have built which, when you've had a separate nose system, has gone on so well. Okay, now obviously you can go back through aircraft history like F-15s, F-14s, things like that. They always have the same sort of nose system that goes on them, and notoriously hard to get the seam right under the intakes. Normally I tend to just worry about the top one, but the great thing about this one, the way this lining system works, you don't have that trouble and you don't have to worry about it, which is absolutely great. So it's a nice sort of forethought the way it's gone in. We was expecting it to be a plate down at the top because we've got this detail that goes in here, but certainly the actual way it's laid out, a lot of thought gone into this, and it's actually paid off dividends because we've got no gaps anywhere apart from the one I made, obviously, which, even though you can probably see at the top here, we've just gone in and we've used the plastic card and we've just literally popped in, you can see it here, absolutely fine. So it just needs a very light sand, so we're just going to take a sanding stick. So we've just got a medium one here, and we can just give it a bit of a rub over just to blend that in. And to be honest, as you can see, by using the plastic card, it means you don't have to do a great deal. Now I've got a little bit of build up on that edge where I've taken the plastic card too close to the intake, so we're just going to give that a bit of a rub with a stronger grit. If I do one side, then we'll show you the other. Okay, so it's just a little bit soft there. Now, using a straight edge blade, we are literally just going to sharpen this up. So we just come in from one side. Now it's going to be a bit tricky to try and get in from the other, if we're honest. Alright, so we're just going to try and scrape him out. As I say, it's the only trouble when you're using blades like this. Where's our trusty Tamiya P cutter? Okay, scrap that. Number 3, let's try, just trying to think of a better way to get in here. Got it. There we go, perfect. Okay, one of those things, taking a moment just to think about the best way of doing it. So we just come in with this one, then we're going to come in with a polisher type. I'm going to wet it just a little bit, give us a better feel. And there we go. Hopefully you can see how good that is compared to the other one. Obviously, you haven't done it. We've done this one, absolutely lovely. And again, plasticard, saviour of everyone's life. If you get a gap that's anything over 1/2 mil, use 1/2 mil plasticard. It's just that if you use any type of fillet, it's going to sink. So literally all we did with this is to come in. If we just drop this top camera down, you can probably get a better look at it. As you can probably see, we've literally just come in, plasticard down, cut it to shape slightly, and then all I've actually done now is literally, glue right the way over the top, quite a bit of it to be honest, okay, just to help melt it in, then leave it, as I said, because if you keep coming in and you keep touching it, you're gonna have a problem. And then the other side, you can see you just get that in there. There's no sink marks, we don't have to worry about sinking later on or anything else, so it's just straightforward and you can just get on with it. So the rest of it all the way around, a couple of areas you just want to keep an eye on. Make sure you've got no little dents or holes or anything in this tail going in. We've obviously glued this top radar warning receiver system in here as well. Got a nice thing on that. We've sanded obviously in the front and taken care. Got a little join back here on the spine, but I think what we do is something in primer with that. I've gone around and rescribed absolutely everywhere, and generally I am so impressed the way that this is all gone without any use of filler to a certain extent, and certainly without any problems at all with any fits, stuff like that. Again, I know I keep saying it, but it really is important. Just watch your flash. There's tiny little bits and it does make the difference, because as I say, you get rid of the flash, you get rid of all your fit issues. So next thing up, we've got this guy on the back now. I was going to put it on afterwards, but because I want to get the engines all in there and somewhat carried on with it, we're going to pop him in now. So he is straightforward fit right here at the back. Okay, so we're just going to sit him in like so, and then we're just going to use our glue. I'm just going to little drop down the back, a little bit down here, a little bit just on the sides. And we're just going to roughly tack him in place just to start with, to get him sat in there. Again, it's a lovely fit. By the time we sort of nudge some of these little guys into position, we're not going to have a problem with that. All right, so we're just going to hold that for a second. Now, nose weight, the instructions call out for 40 grams. Always go more, so I've gone in for around about 50 grams of weight. I know it seems a lot, but don't panic, we're not putting it all in the tail. Okay, what we've done, I've made it up here, and I've just put a little bit of PVA glue around it as well, just to stop it rattling and everything else. Now the great thing with this guy is we've got this big old hole right down in here, so it's a straightforward fit. You can put him in and he will sit in something like this. Check your nose fit to make sure your nose will go on, and then obviously you've got a bit of movement around in there. So what I'm going to do, and because we haven't got any problems with any glass in there at the moment, I'm just going to put in a drop of super glue, just like so, and we've got him in the wrong way around, which doesn't make too much difference, but we're just going to pop him in. Okay, then what we're going to do is put a dollop of glue on the top. It will run down the sides, hopefully. That's all in there. Kicker. Okay, kicker just speeds this process up, stops it running anywhere we don't want it, like too far back in the fuselage and everything else. All right, let that go off for a couple of minutes, and then come in literally with a bit of PVA glue. The reason for using PVA glue, and I know we're not flying this around the room or anything else, well, all right, perhaps just a little bit, but certainly it just stops it rattling if it ever breaks free. Being super glue, over time it will break down. I don't know if you can hear this, it's crackling away quite nicely, which means it must be getting near drying. Okay, but once that is in and you're glued in, you'll be able to pop the nose on, and to be honest, again, amazingly, it is such a good fit. And to be honest, I'm not going to worry about bunging PVA glue because I can't be bothered to wait, so we're just going to literally touch of glue, not too much. Okay, pop this nose on, and there we go. We've got one really nice looking tornado now. So all we're going to do is let the capillary action run its way around the outside of this guy. And again, I can't think of many noses that go on absolutely spot on. Normally you get a lip or an edge or something, and I say there's just nothing on this at all. So I'm now turning into a complete Revell convert. But there we go. Now we have one very nice looking tornado. It's got that shape, that nice classical lines to it and everything else like that. So what we're going to do is tidy up a few of these little areas. I need to stick this engine area back in, square it all up, have a good look round it, do a few more little bits to the cockpit. So obviously you've got to put the HUD in. We need to paint the forward front of this. If you wanted to detail it up, obviously you could, and then we can start thinking about getting glass onto it, and then think about getting into paint, primer, things like that, and start really putting it together. At the same time, he says as he's holding this, you might be able to see down below, I've taken care of the fuel tanks, the jammer pod, the Bose pod, the pylons are built, all of them, and including the bottom ones, and I've done all three, even though I think we're only going to be going with two. Okay, I can let go of that. We've done, very happy with that. We've done the air brakes on the back, very nice detail on that. It's got a slight sink mark in it, but I think we're going to get away with it. I'm not going to worry about it too much. No ejector pin marks in there. It has got some, but don't worry, as you can see, they all get covered up, so they're done. We've also been putting the wheels together and everything else like that, so that's all sorted and all good to go. So we're really in a position to clear this away, work on the cockpit, get that bit done, talk about masking up. We're going to carry about cover masking, because I think we haven't done it for a while, so I'm going to show you how I mask up and prepare glass work and everything else out for fitting in, and then we can really start pushing on with this one. Okay, so we've got it looking pretty nice. You can see we've painted up the front end black, and to be honest, I had a little bit of black left over. So what I tend to do is if I've got any paint left over in the airbrush, I'll run it around seams I'm not too sure on, okay? So by doing that, it really just gives us a chance to check to see how things are going to look like when it's got primer on and things like that. But certainly on the back here, I made a little bit of a mess, had a fingerprint if I'm honest. So I sort of sanded it out, so I've used a little bit of black there to see how it would look. And obviously because we're using black up here at the front for when we attach the glass, I wanted to check to see what was going on around the nose, so we did it, and then it's a case of it's going to be black anyway, so I just sort of masked it up. So hence the reasons for that. Okay, so masking up canopies, things like that. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could go off, and I did have one here somewhere, and buy yourself a masking set. Ed, do them, and pretty much straightforward, quite easy to use. You just peel them off and you pong them in. The only trouble with that is I tend to find they stretch, and when they stretch, they can get out of shape really, really quickly. And if you're in a situation like I am and a little bit ham-fisted, they actually seem to be more work than doing it manually, okay? So what we got down here is our two bits of glass, and really the Tornado is really easy to do because it's quite straightforward. It's nice straight lines. There's not curves and things like that and everything else going around it. The only thing you notice with this particular one is you don't have any ridges to tell you where the glass ends on the bottom here at all, along this edge here. You're okay in the middle, so the middle one will be a doddle, but these edge ones, you've got to decide how far you're going to go down, because normally you have a recess and you can just run it to that and away you go. And the same goes with the ones back here, because there's no recess, proper recess anyway, to the rear, okay, of the actual glass itself. The middle one's okay, but these other ones haven't. Don't worry about these little holes in the glass, because obviously that's for attaching your mirrors and things like that in there, okay? So they're not a concern at all. The other thing as well, normally you get some type of center seam line running through here. We've done tutorials about doing that and getting rid of those by polishing them out and everything else like that in the past. Then you can dip them, if you like, into a clear gloss to make them look better, a lot clearer. But to be honest, all of these are really, really fine. The other thing that's absolutely stunningly brilliant with these is when we did a quick test fit to see how these went on, the fit for this glass work, the way it goes on, it doesn't even need gluing on really. It's actually that good. It just fits in there absolutely perfect. But what you want to do is just make sure you're happy with it first. Okay, so do a quick test fit, pop them in, pop your glass bits all in, just to make sure you're happy of how it's all sitting. Now, when I poke this one in, this rear one is a bit of a pain to fit in, and what it is because I got a little bit of height down here going on, all right, in these little areas, and this is where we had our small little cock up and we've had to go around and sort of fix it a little bit. But for our point of view, we're going to have it in the open position up here anyway, so I'm not worried about it at all right? So by the time we just sort of gently fit it in here like this, we should be absolutely fine, and away we go. But it's always a good idea to check your fit first and everything else, because you can look through the glass to see how it's sitting, make sure you're happy about how it's sitting. If you've got any real problems with it not joining up and things like that, you can take care of it now, because in the past, I must admit, I've actually masked them all up and then I've had problems and I couldn't see why it was happening. So you've done that, you're all happy, okay? So next up, we're going to mask. Good quality masking tape is a real must for this. You want to use something that is not going to bleed, okay, that's going to stick long term. So if you've got a project on the go and perhaps you're not the speediest builder in the world and you mask it up, the last thing you want to do a couple of weeks later, it's all peeled up at the edges, and lesser tapes do that. And for instance, and in fact I'm out of it, I've used it all up, frog tape. A lot of people seem to think it was like the second coming and that it was just a bigger version of, and I can't find my other roll, it's around here somewhere, of the 40mm Tamiya tape, okay? It's not, it's nothing like it, so don't think it is. After 24 hours the stuff peels and lifts off. So it's useless for masking because you have to go around and remask it every 2 days. Okay, I highly recommend Tamiya tape. I still to this day, after doing this like this for God knows how many years now, found anything that is as good as Tamiya tape. It's one of those things, every time you use it, you know it's going to work and be absolutely fine. So how are we going to do it? First of all, okay, blades. Make sure you've got a nice sharp blade, all right? So if you're using something like I do, like disposable blades like this, get yourself up to a new section, okay, and then click off a new section. Obviously just be a little bit careful all with your old ones, especially with the animals and the kids. So what I tend to do is do the old, stick it in some Tamiya tape bit. Okay, and we're just going to fold all that up then it can go into the bin, and it saves it going in the animal's feet. All right, so you got a nice sharp corner. Okay, that's what you're going to need. You obviously can use your number 11 blades, things like that, or just standard flat blades, whichever's easiest for you. So making sure you're all nice and clear, what we're going to do, we're going to do the hardest one first. So if you want to, you can do it this way, and this is what I call you do it in one. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start on the edges, so a nice bit of tape. Okay, so I'm looking down to see if there's anywhere totally noticeable where I should be cutting. Okay, there isn't, so what I'm going to do is roughly going to guesstimate it. So I'm going to lead it up into the forward area, and I'm going to sort of follow the line around. So I go down, pull it, and I'm stretching the tape as I'm putting it down. If you notice, I'm sort of crimping as we go. Okay, and there we go in. Okay, and then basically step back and have a look. All right, see how it actually is. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, again, we don't really have an edge on this to run to, because the glass just peters off and disappears. All right, so what we're going to do, we're just going to come in with our second one just to finish the top area. All right, so this one here, we're just going to have a good overlap, push down, and just stretch it slightly. If you stretch it, you'll find it will conform better. It will go around the corners. Now obviously if you've got a nail, put a nail in there. If you haven't got a nail to go around with, use a cocktail stick or something like that, and you can literally just push in and make sure it's going into all those corners, so you can actually see exactly where you need to go. Okay, and then taking your very nice sharp blade, what I tend to do is start from the middle of the actual tape. That way it stops it rolling up on itself. So I'll go in from the middle, okay, and then when you're on a roll you can do that. Always keep your offcuts, they always come in handy. Okay, so again we're just going to come in from the middle here, we know it comes up to there, and then we're just following the line from the tape. Okay, and just make sure you do a nice good cut on your corners so you don't get any pull up and anything else like that. Alright, so there's that guy in. And then what we're going to do, we're going to do the middle, but we need it a little bit wider, this one. As well, when you pull off your roll of tape, just be careful of these areas like here. Okay, it's rolled it up, it's scraped it, it's pulled it, you won't get a nice clean cut with that. So what we're going to do is going to avoid that side. So again, just making sure we're all in there nicely. We're just going to go along up through the middle. Again, just need to stretch it over just a little bit, help it to conform, then in with my nail, or as I say, you can use a cocktail stick, it's not a brilliant one, it's a better one, and just press it into those corners so you can get a good look at how it is. The other thing as well, like I've got giant studio lights, so if you hold it up to the studio light you can see the actual area it is, and if you've got your phone, your iPhone, something like that, okay, pop it down on the clear of it, of the glass, and you can see it that way as well. Okay, so we're just going to do this guy again. We're starting in the middle. Remember, don't push. Okay, just let the blade do the job. There we go. Then what we can do, we're just going to come in with 6mm again and do that bottom. So as I say, it's very tricky to see it on this one. Okay, it's in there nicely, then we're just going to bend it up and round. And we'll just use this slightly thicker one, there we won't, because it's too thick. That one in, into that edge, and then what we're going to do is just going to off the back, and again just give it a nudge with the nail. We'll start down in that corner. There we go, that's the front one done, and then obviously we can just come along and plonk him down there for the moment, and that gives us our front one on there. Now, rear one's slightly more difficult. Again, this has got no real bottom row of it at all. Because you've got the bar in the middle, you can either treat it as one or two. Personally, I like to treat them as one, so a good length. Okay, we know it's going to go right down to the bottom edge. Okay, and again, we're just coming along and we're using that stretch technique, so we're coming along to halfway. Okay, that's that one in. Then we do the same on the other side. Okay, so we're just going to hook him in there. Down onto the middle. Okay, then again, because these are a little bit tricky, I'll just hold it up to the light so I can see which line I'm cutting. Okay. Okay, there's one. There's two. Front ones, which are definitely a little bit more tricky because you can't see them at all. Three. Okay, so I've got to use the light for this because I can't see them whatsoever. And four. Okay, so using the bit we got left over, we're going to go along across the top. So again, it's a stretching motion halfway that we need. Okay, then the other one, and then you might be able to see we've got a good overlap there. So what we're going to use is some scissors. Just going to cut that one off like that. Then we've got the same for the rear. So we get a good overlap. And we're just going to stretch. Okay. Snip off, just pull it right in a little bit. Okay, now this middle one, what we're going to do is sort of cheat and do a bit of both. Alright, so we're going to come holding up to the light so we can see where it actually is. So we've got this guy in, alright, and then we're going to stretch over exactly the same. And then we're just going to snip that corner, because what we can use is its line to carry it over. So there's that one more. Okay, up to the light. So it's not so bad this one because it's actually got a little bit of a line. Okay, over we go. Stretching, because obviously it's the way it actually is. Otherwise you're going to end up with wrinkles. Okay. Now what we can actually do is just continue the tape to follow the tape as it comes down. All right, so literally blade goes in, okay, and just dropping south. Okay, it's going to wrinkle up a little bit on this side because it's a small, so start from the middle, cut over on the other side, cut, and you should be able to just pull this guy out the middle, just like so. Same on the other side, straight down. Let's see if we can get away with doing this one. Yeah, we have. Okay, now you can use up all your bits and pieces if you've got them, just the backfill, and just snip off any areas where you're going to go a little bit too much. So we can use this one, just like that. As I say, always keep your offcuts because they always come in handy. Most modelers' benches has a load of them along the edge. Okay, just do one. And two. And there we go, that's those done. Really straightforward. Save yourselves a £5 in masking set. He'll then push in. There he goes. We'll lock him in there. And actually it's a very nice fit now we've done that. And there we go, that's him all completely masked up and put in there.